Welcome everyone, I'm Donna and this is Retirepreneur. Our mission is to help pre-retirees, people that are age 50-ish and above. We're striving to help them make a smooth and successful segue from full-time job to part-time freelance gig doing work they enjoy. And this show helps support that mission. And we have a wonderful show in store for you today. Joining us in just a bit is Robin Sachs. We're going to talk about tips and techniques so that you can embrace your best talents and make that freelance gig a reality. But first, I want to talk about relocation. And in fact, our newsflash segments are all going to circulate around one theme. Where will you live? Retirepreneur newsflash number 1, and it comes to us from the Cleveland Jewish News. The headline, should you stay in your home or move? You know, the choice about where we're going to live in this chapter of our lives, it's a crucial one. There are many financial considerations to weigh, and it's an emotionally charged decision. But what I really liked about this article is they teed up a number of considerations. There was a quote from Wade Pfau, professor of retirement income at the American College. And Professor Pfau says, one needs to think about where to live, how long to stay there, and whether to move later in retirement. And there are plenty of justifications for either staying put or moving earlier in retirement. The questions that they tossed up were good ones. For example, are you making an accurate comparison? Is it apples to apples? Are you looking at your current house and then maybe a rental and are you making a fair comparison? And speaking of rentals, are you even open to renting? You know, it's really interesting. Our generation was brought up with this whole concept of building home equity. You know, we've taught about the virtues of home ownership, but dynamics are changing. The economy is changing, and if you've been flirting with renting, it's an opportunity to test out, maybe even experiment with a new location and see how that impacts your retirement. And then that whole change of scenery, it's interesting. According to Realtor.com, 85% of retirees tend to stay in the general area where they raise their families. I picked up a few other statistics. American Moving and Storage Association, according to that group, 35 million Americans move each and every year. 82% tend to stay within the same state, 13% move to a different state, and a small segment are going overseas. So there are some fun stats to keep in mind. Retirepreneur newsflash number 2, and it comes to us from AARP. The headline, buying into an urban retirement. We hinted at this renting. You know, more boomers are packing up and heading downtown for some kind of major change in their lifestyle. And what was nice about this article is they showcased a number of stories of people aged 55 and older who were trading in their suburban family homes for some kind of downtown loft in a smaller footprint. One story was about Shirley Madalena. She's an interior designer, and she swapped her 3-story home in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and she'd been living there 33 years. She swapped it for a 3-bedroom apartment in a new luxury tower in downtown Detroit, which, by the way, is going through their own kind of rejuvenation. But she commented that, you know, in the suburbs, there's no sidewalks, there's very few people that she's seeing in her neighborhood, and she sees much more activity downtown. And in fact, she can walk to the opera, take the Q Line streetcar to go see the symphony, and even attend some rock concerts at the arena. In fact, she said, I would never have seen Paul McCartney if I still lived in the suburbs. This new urbanism may have been created for millennials, but it's affordable for boomers too, and something to consider. And Retirepreneur newsflash number 3 comes to us from Smart Living 360. The headline, all ages are welcome. Ryan Frederick is president and CEO of Smart Living 360, and I had the privilege of interviewing him some time ago for the Retirepreneur podcast. And he is really setting the stage for some new and more dynamic choices, multi-generational choices. With 360 Smart Living 360, you know, this whole vision of developing residential communities that serve as a centerpiece for well-being, and he has different pillars that he keeps in mind as he's designing these communities. Greater purpose, social connection, physical and financial well-being, and this sense of community. And his first development that has been a great success is the Stories at Congressional Plaza. It's actually a 48-unit apartment complex in Rockville, Maryland. It's a vibrant, modern location, minutes away from Bethesda in Washington, D.C., and he really is ushering in this multi-generational urban living arrangement. All kinds of smart design features. It's a very walkable location, a full-service concierge, everything you could hope for. So we'll have a link to that at the end of the program. You can take a closer look. And there you have it. As you ponder where you will live, hopefully we've given you some good news to take a look at. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, it's time for Robin Sachs. Joining us now is Robin Sachs. Robin is an award-winning journalist, award-winning playwright, author, international speaker and motivator, trainer and coach. She's also author of the book, Get Off My Bus, How to Get Clarity, Get in the Driver's Seat, and Get Moving in Your Life. And I love that book. Robin, welcome to Retirepreneur TV.
Oh, thank you for the invite. Thrilled to be here, Donna.
Well, and you know what, having worked with you in the past and knowing you as well as I do, I want to propose that we start this interview off with a little fun game. You game?
I love fun games. I'm always game.
A little word association, okay? So I'll call out a word or phrase, and then you just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay? Ready?
I'm ready.
Bus.
Ooh, you got that from somewhere, didn't you? All right, bus. So in my context, and we can expand on that later if you'd like to, bus has to do with your people and environment and surroundings that you are surrounded by and you choose to be surrounded by as you drive through your life.
Interesting. Too busy.
Okay, so my thinking is nobody's too busy. When something's a priority, you make it busy, or you make it happen. Also, there's a big difference between busy and productive, and I think too many people think being too busy means, hey, I'm all over the place, I'm running like crazy, I'm the proverbial chicken with its head cut off. No, if you're too busy, you might be doing some things that you could be doing a little more effectively.
Which is the perfect segue to the next one, inner idiot. I told you I was going to look around your website here.
Inner idiot to me conjures up the thinking that we get in our own way more than anybody else or anything else. We're convinced that it's other people, it's other situations, it's everything going on. Our inner idiot pops out at times and doesn't really allow us to get out of our own way sometimes.
And I should establish that these words are all inspired by things that Robin has said or written, okay?
You're making it easy for me.
We're also transparent. How about the backwards bucket list?
All right, so most people may be familiar with the concept of a bucket list, which is as morbidly enough as it is. Before I die, I want to do some of these things. I'm a big fan of what I like to call a backwards bucket list, which is I get that you want to do certain things before you go. However, there are so many things in life that if you stopped doing or chose not to do anymore, another entry to get out of your own way and actually get yourself in the priority mode of the things you want to make priorities.
I'm hearing a word pop up several times, and a choice, what we choose. So I think people kind of think things happen, but how often are we actually making them happen?
Well, and a lot of what I like to speak about has to do with things like stress and confidence, and that word choice does come up a lot. And my belief is that very little happens not by choice. We again think that we're out of control of most of life, and the reality is no, actually we're quite in control. The challenge, I think, really is that we tend to focus on the things over which we have very little control. And so it makes us feel out of control. That's why people often talk about things like the weather and the traffic and the stock market and other people. Everyone's driving me nuts. And the reality is, how many of those things can you control? None.
So we're wrestling with these things and we have no ability to change them.
It's exactly right. And the thing is, you don't really have choices with things when you don't have control over them. So we try to do that. It doesn't work. It's never going to work. The other flip side of that, of course, is what do we have control over? That I have total ability to make choices on. So it's a small list. Me. I can control how I choose to respond to those things, what I do with those, whether I walk away or I continue on with something. Those are all choices I can make. Excuse me, and I have control over that.
And it's so interesting because we kind of keep running so fast we don't realize some of these kind of default operations we have in our, we've done them for years. We react a certain way, and there is a short list of things we can control. Imagine what would happen if we focused more time there.
Yeah. And you think about the time, if you go through a single day and consciously just be aware of how often I'm focusing on things over which I have no control, you will be amazed at how much time and energy we waste on that stuff. And again, we say, boy, I wish I had more time. I wish I had more energy. I wish I had more everything. You know what? It's all sitting here. And it's not to say you have to stop all of this stuff, because you can't. That's not realistic.
Right.
That's not real life. You have to participate in life and everyone else's lives and environments and surroundings and situations. That's part of the game. It's part of the fun almost. But to be able to pinpoint a few things here, and I loved how you hit on really the idea of habits. We're in this default mode, this autopilot.
Yeah.
And if we can get out of autopilot or off of autopilot, we can find one or two or three things here and bring that time over here, and all of a sudden, now we've become productive, not busy.
Right. It's being more intentional, it sounds like.
It's a great
with
word.
What we're doing. Your career journey, it's a fascinating one. You started in broadcast journalism, the local NBC affiliate, reporter, anchor, producer. How did that prepare you for what you do now? What lessons did you learn from that you're now applying?
Two things come to mind immediately. One of them is actually what transitioned me fairly easily as I look back. The journey going into it didn't make sense at the time, but looking back, it's a completely clear picture. One of the things about television news that very much was rubbing me the wrong way from a values standpoint was just the negative bent of everything. And no judgment, just awareness. There's a whole psychology to it. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. And on a newscast, as a broadcaster, I'm always going to tell you what's going wrong. I'm never going to identify what's going right, even though there's two sides to things. An example of that would be the weather forecaster is always going to tell you there's a 20% chance of rain. He or she will never say there's an 80% chance of sun. But those are the same things. And what do we do in our heads? Oh, great, it's going to rain today.
Umbrella. Yep.
Even though it means nothing to our life. Okay, so it's going to rain. Did you plan a party with 180 people in your backyard at 3 o'clock? Who cares if it's going to rain? It has no bearing, but it's one of those things we can't control, but just the thought of that in our head kind of wigs us out a little bit. And so throw that forward a few years, what I started to really become disgruntled with a little bit was the idea that every single thing that you're told on a newscast, if you listen to a newscast, local, national, international, doesn't matter. Don't listen to what they tell you. Flip it and listen to what they just didn't tell you. And what happens is you start to get in the habit of seeing both sides of everything.
Interesting.
Which is something that we're not accustomed to. Again, no judgment, just awareness. Our society is all about what's going wrong, let's find it out and fix it. Well, it's not about focusing on what's going right and going with that.
So that same dynamic and the stirring up angst and anxiety with the news, it's also happening on social channels. I mean, that's mirroring that same dynamic.
Absolutely. And to that point, I think that part of it is we've gotten so in a mindset in our culture in particular, in our society, that we're so accustomed to that default is let's see what's going wrong. And that tends to take us to a very stressful place, a very anxious place. For some people, it goes beyond that and gets to a very depressive place. It really can create some major issues. When we start applying that mindset, because it's so ingrained in us after a while, it's just our default, we start applying that mindset to a lot of things in our lives to which it doesn't apply. And part of that is our self-esteem, our confidence, our self-esteem. And when that starts to happen, I think the human response oftentimes is, if I can say something about you to knock you down a little bit, I can't pick myself up necessarily, or I'm not giving myself permission to. If I can pull you down, I feel a little better about myself. Ugh. And then, you look at reality TV, you look at all that stuff. Yeah. What is that all about? Yeah. Watching people mess up, watching people fail, watching people overreact, so we can kind of look at them and go, look at these fools. And that's a really, I don't know what the word is. It's a dangerous and sad place that we get to sometimes. But flipping it back to, what can we do about it? What do we have control over? Because you know what? I can't control any of that. What can you control? I can control how I'm going to choose to respond to that, whether I'm going to participate to it. If drama and stress is coming into my life, I don't have to buy a ticket. I can get up and leave the theater, so to speak. Right. So what are those things that I can take control of? And part of that is really about letting go of what everyone else thinks, because that's where I think a lot of this, at the core, what's going on? What will people think? What do people think of me?
And the big thing is, you know what? They're still going to think it. You're getting all worked up about it, what other people think. And I know that's a hard thing, but that's probably the thing I appreciate most about being of my age now, is I'm more comfortable with going, I don't really care.
Yeah, at some point you realize people are going to judge you whatever you do.
They're going to judge me
and that's their problem.
Yep.
I'm going to go do what I feel I need to do. And an analogy to that is, and we all go here, but you think of how silly and ridiculous it is sometimes. If you had 100 people in a room and you took a picture of them and you printed it out and passed it around, every of those 100 people would do the same thing. They'd take the picture, and out of 100 people, what would they look at?
Themselves.
Themselves, because it's all about me. Nothing else matters. There aren't 99 other people in the room. And what's my first thought? What an awful picture. What am I wearing? What's with my hair? What is all that? And the thing is that's where we go, because we're our own worst critics, and we're concerned, what will everyone think? The reality is, if you pass that around and asked everyone else to look at you,
they'd be like, oh.
What a nice picture. Nobody's thinking about you. Nobody's really looking at you and thinking anything, because they're so busy in their heads thinking, what is everyone thinking about me?
Amazing. Along this same broadcast journalism vibe, I first met you, oh gosh, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago, and you gave a talk in Cleveland, and I was mesmerized. And I have to think that broadcast journalism background, you're so articulate and entertaining and fun and really good solid advice. But I have to think there are people out there that are thinking about this freelance gig, and maybe public speaking might help them expand their network. So if there are viewers out there thinking about getting into public speaking, which does create some anxiety, do you have some tips or thoughts on what they might do to kind of break in?
Sure. A handful. Boy, how much time do we have here? A couple of thoughts on this that might be really helpful. You still see on lists of what are your biggest fears. Public speaking, number 1. Number 2, death.
Yeah.
Number 3, something else horrific.
So public speaking's number 1.
You see that kind of stuff. It's always in a top 5. And it's funny, because here's one thing to kind of shift mindset, because everything is mindset. How you choose to look at it is going to determine what you get and how you feel and how you think. And it's all speaking is communicating. And we often think, oh, it's a presentation, and we mentally get in presentation mode, and that's a frightening place for most people to be. Yep. But if you shift that thinking from nothing's a presentation, everything is a conversation.
That takes it down.
That takes some pressure off. And again, the beauty of that is we have conversations all day, every day. It's a very normal, comfortable place to be. And when people shift that thinking of, I have to get up in front of the room and give the book report in 4th grade, because that's where people go back to. You're at a place in your life, a time when what is everyone thinking of me is top of your list. Those are for most people, their first experiences with public speaking
Sure.
are horrific, uncomfortable things. And that feel is brought forward in those moments. So here's the thing. It's a conversation. Have conversations. You do it all the time. Just talk to people. And it's a conversation even when the audience isn't speaking to you. Keep it audience focused. It's about them. And one last thing. If you are going out there as you're your product. You're your service, especially as a consultant. I can get anybody to do probably the job. It's that person, that relationship, how
That's
you're
what's
communicating. That's your superpower. Nobody is like you. I don't want you looking like everyone else. And that's the thing, is anytime you can get in front of a group, that's free marketing too. You're giving them your product.
So live events, you're a speaker at conferences, but you're also, I've noticed that video is kind of a adjacent field, and I see you mastering that in these short videos, and I saw 29 days of little shifts, there's an F in there, that have a huge impact, and you're sharing these daily on Facebook. So talk to me about that. I'm like, whoa, check her out. And I felt like you were having a conversation with me.
Well, thank you. That makes me feel great. And that's part of the point. Something that I've noticed is, for people who do enjoy speaking with people, and again, as public speaking, you're actually speaking with people, not to people. That's another mindset shift. There's a certain energy to that, of course, and a certain feel to that that's wonderful. But it's so easy now to scale your value and share with so many more people simply by sitting at home on your computer and clicking record. It's that simple, or picking up your phone and hitting record.
Right.
Or going onto Facebook and clicking live and start talking. And
the comfort level, for me, it's starting to ease more the more I do it. It's just part of the experience. It's new. At first, I hit the record button, and my husband, it was fall, and he was outside with the leaf blower. I was like, stop the leaf blowing.
and part of that is, it's funny because, again, it used to be, the wonders of a beautiful studio like we're in today. Professional has shifted, because now what I want to see people sharing is their value. If you've got something that you can share with me in a minute that I can go, whoa, I never thought about that, and I can take out now and apply to my life, you just shifted something huge for me.
In a big way.
I didn't need to sit in a big professional setting with perfect lighting and all that stuff. Of course, there's a value to that, as you can tell today in these types of studio settings. But to be able to flip out your phone right now, all of them have a good enough camera on it, and you have a momentary thought that might help others. And that's the key, is it's not about me. What do I have to share? Hey, I was just here today and I discovered something. Did you ever think of this? Blah, blah, blah. The next time this comes up, maybe think of that. That might be an option. Click. Done. Share. And what you find is that it used to be where you had to go out and find your tribe, so to speak, find your clients, find that customer base, find that audience. Today, a phenomenal piece to all of this technology we have is, the more you put yourself out there and your value and just share, what you're doing is allowing your tribe to find you. Because today, more than anything, they're going to come across you, or somebody's going to see it and like it and share, and all of a sudden their 700 followers all of a sudden see you. I don't have to go find those 700 people. I need to resonate with someone who's going to want to share and show it to their people. You allow people to find each other that way and find you. And that's a powerful, powerful thing we never really had before.
Very interesting. We are almost out of time. Every time I sit down with you, the time just flies by. But you have a new venture grounded in clarity. Not brand new, but you've engaged you and Angie Pullman, who visited with us previously on
cool.
Retirepreneur TV. You guys are doing this kind of cut to the chase, high energy workshops. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and then keeping in mind this audience, how they might benefit from that?
Certainly. One of the things I think people are really looking for these days is what I would refer to as micro content, or portable courses, portable stuff. It used to be, let's go take a class and let's sit, for 4 months in a classroom and learn things. And the reality is, no. Experiential, number one, is how you're going to learn. Number two, I want to find the people who have done what I want to do and learn from them.
Yep.
Because if you're not doing what I want to do, or if you're not in the process of it, or if you've not already done it, your opinion actually means very little. And so that could be one of those things. Let me push you to the side and go to this person. What did you do? What did you learn?
Right.
That's what I want to know. The cool thing with something like Grounded in Clarity is you don't have to do it all on your own anymore. You know, again, old thinking is I'm competing with everyone else doing what I do. Today, the new thinking that is so empowering and just kicks it up a level for you. No, find the people who are doing kind of what you're doing and find those collaborations that make sense. Because pulling those people together, it's not about competing, it's about creating. It's not about competing, it's about collaborating. And being able to find somebody, collaborate with them, and put together these micro pieces of information that somebody can look at, get what they need, get out and go use it. And when they're ready, come back.
And as I looked at these videos and the training modules that you and Angie have put together, it's very interesting. You have complementary strengths and then you have some specialty superpowers. The videos are so engaging. You talked about experiences and stories. You share some really teachable stories in a very quick and compelling way. So is it groundedinclarity.com?
Sure, groundedinclarity.com. Thank you for that plug. Some cool stuff. Go check it out if you're interested.
Time has flown by. Groundedinclarity.com. RobinJSachs.com.
Thank you.
Awesome speaker. I'm telling you, every time I watch her speak at a conference, I'm just like, oh my gosh, we need more Robins out there. But thanks for coming today.
Thank you again for the invite. Always
Excellent.
a pleasure.
And with that, we've hit the finish line for another show. We hope you caught a few new ideas, things to ponder as you move on your way to that next exciting Retirepreneur pursuit. And we hope you'll join us next time. Thanks so much.